Okay, hi everybody. This is for 1206, my Brightspace class. I'm in my office at University of Guelph Humber. It's Wednesday, May 11th, and I'm recording this. And let's just get started. This is called Bricks of Academic Success. Okay. And I'm going to find it. Sorry, I thought I had it saved. I did have it open before. Now I can't seem to find it. This is going to take a couple minutes. Okay, here we go. And it's not sharing properly. Let's see if we can get it share again. It is sharing properly now. Okay. This is a presentation. It's for connected with an assignment on its own worth 5%. And it serves two purposes. One, you have to do the assignment itself. And the other is this is instruction for how to do all your other assignments. As I've said in class, for those who have me in physical class, that it will not be accepted this year or this semester for you to do assignments, which are often just summaries or annotations, and essentially to cut and paste the original article and then just cut some elements out of it and then call that your summary. That is not how you do a summary. You do the summary how I instruct you now. And I just want to be clear. I think it's pretty obvious that when you're writing a summary of something, you take notes on it and you write up your own notes. I suspect over half the class will not do it that way, that it will just be whatever you go, that's too much work. I don't want to listen. I don't want to read. I want to do it my way. And all I want to do is take the document that you've given us and just start cutting paragraphs and cutting sentences out. And then I'll run it through some software called, I call it Scrambler software. I don't know what you call it, but what it does is it changes the words and you think that you can use that software to avoid being detected on plagiarism software. Okay, first of all, if I have software that compares your assignment to every other assignment and it compares it to everything on the internet, okay? And it gives me side-by-side comparison. And if you've got blocks and blocks of exactly the same material, it's not maybe you're guilty, maybe you're not guilty. It's very clear. It's not, I'm not sending you a report on it. So to give you proof. And I think it's sort of comical that some students, they just simply copy their entire assignment and then they say they didn't. One student said, oh, smoke got in my eyes and it was an accident. I accidentally went on Course Hero, a cheating site, and copied another assignment. And then accidentally took that copied assignment and attached it and uploaded it as my own. It was an accident though. I didn't mean to. Do you know how stupid that is? So I'm just starting this off a little negatively, but just as a warning, you do it the way I say, and you do this one the way I say, and you need to listen. If English is not your first language, you need to listen harder. You need to take notes more aggressively. If English is not your first language, you should never be in a position where you can just fall asleep and not listen and think that you're going to get it. But if your comprehension is already a bit below and it might not be your fault, that is not the time to talk to other people in class if it's a physical class, which it's not, or just to not pay attention. You need to try harder. And to be clear, the only way you can do the assignments in this class is by reading them, taking your own notes and compiling those notes and putting them together in the way I'm going to describe in the next half an hour and doing it the honest way. And I've said this over and over again, and many students, if not over half, don't want to do it that way. And for somehow you don't believe me that I've got software that detects everything. And this semester, if you're cheating, that I have 2 steps. One, to give you a 0. Second one, to write you up for academic misconduct. And if you get written up twice for academic misconduct, you get a 0 in the course, not just the assignment. And if you get multiple ones, you get kicked out of the program. It's taken very seriously. Maybe you don't take it seriously, but Algoma University does. And that's the ones that matters, okay? So I don't know why students' instinctive reaction when told to write a summary of something is simply to copy it and then put it through software and try and change it and cut it out a little bit. If you do it that way and you get a 0, I won't even respond to your email, okay? I'm sorry, I will not, because there is no excuse. You've been warned in writing. You're being warned right now. If you're not listening to this, you're not paying attention, that's not my problem. All I can do is give you announcements and audio overlays. In this case, it's video. And I think I overlap. I think you get told most everything you need to do in this course. You get told not just once, but 2 or 3 times. It's legitimate just to tell you once. Okay. So if you're listening to this before the 15th, your quiz is open on the 15th. It closes on the 18th. If you look under quizzes, the dates are right there. It tells you, okay? It's not hidden. And you only have 25 minutes to do it. We're going to talk about this. The bricks of academic success. The original PowerPoint was done by Prof. Tony Fabiano out of Sault Ste. Marie. I've sort of adapted it, still use his PowerPoint. So what you're going to be doing for this assignment, which is worth 5%, is writing up your notes on this lecture. For subsequent assignments, like assignment 1, 2, and 3, you're going to do exactly what I ask you to do in those assignments. But the methodology that you use is the one that you're taught in this video, okay? That you need. It's the note-taking methodology that you're going to be taught, which you should know. We're going to go over it again. I know that when I teach classes physically, that many students, if not most, probably 90% don't take notes, do not write anything down, or do not type it up in their computer. They and people tend to just talk to one another too. I don't even know the point of attending class if you're not listening, but that's another topic. If you're listening at home on your computer, which most of you are, I don't know how you're going to watch the PowerPoint and on your computer and take notes on the same computer without closing the video. The audio will still come through. So I think you should do it probably either with another computer or just handwrite your notes. It's still possible. But you will what this assignment is, this one for 5%, is essentially just writing up the notes from this lecture. So what we're going to be looking at is reading with a purpose, basic analytical skills, writing with clarity and precision, designing arguments with more of an emphasis on the early portion. Okay. So reading is very important to education, to comprehension. It's important to life. Reading and writing is the way you take in writing, which is through reading, is a fundamental way we store knowledge in our society and a fundamental way we communicate. But all material is not created equal. All material is not of equal complexity. There is different types in the classrooms, there's different types of things that you read. Sometimes you read compositions, sometimes you read arguments, like papers designed to persuade you. Sometimes it's purely factual, okay? So a narrative is something that tells a story. Description is standard textbook. Argumentative is to persuade. You know when you're reading something for different intentions, okay? You know that when you're reading something very casually, like a newspaper or an ad, that you probably don't focus on it in the way that you do when you read other things. So the point that I'm trying to make here is that in spite of this being true, we get in the habit of reading texts the same way. And we get in the habit, especially of skimming everything, okay? Of just basically reading the first line and then just sort of our eye descends and we read everything very quick. Now I want just to stop here for a second. Every word that I've been saying, maybe not every word, it's going to be hard to write that down. But what you are doing for the assignment right now, you're not getting a quiz on this. You're not getting a multiple choice test. You're writing up what I'm saying. Now, I know what some of you go, well, why do we have to take notes? We can just copy out the PowerPoint. I can see the PowerPoint. I said earlier, I would not accept. I know what's in the PowerPoint. And if you just copy the PowerPoint, you're not going to get anything for that. That's not worth anything. Okay? So you need, as I'm speaking right now, in the last 3 or 4 minutes, you should have been taking notes on what I'm saying. You should be taking notes going forward on what I'm saying. So the point is here is that we can read stuff very superficially. And sometimes it's okay if it's advertising, if it's comic books or something very light. But when it's something very serious, we need to read it in a different manner. It says here, you wouldn't read a gossip magazine like you read an article from the library or a news story, and it says on the NHL lockout, which isn't happening, as a textbook. Why is that? Because the textbook is harder to comprehend. It's more important for your life because you have to understand it, and it's written at a higher level. So your academic success depends on your comprehension of texts that you're reading. And where does comprehension start? It starts with proper reading techniques. And if you have a technique, if you do the same technique for all your reading, you're going to be in trouble, okay? Because some stuff is lighter, some stuff is heavier. What we're talking about is heavier things. So what can you do to take in information when you're reading an academic article or a journal article or something that you really need to know, but it's quite heavy and it's not that easy? What do? You can rely on a photographic memory if you have one, but that's probably, I don't know, 1 in 10,000, 1 in 100,000. I don't think anybody, some of the people think they have photographic memories, they have good memories. A photographic memory means that you look at text for even a split second and you turn away and you write down every word exactly. Okay, that's the way your memory works. If that's your way, it's not even going to help you in this because you're having to transcribe what I'm saying. So unless you have a photographic memory for audio, which I don't think anybody has, you'd still have to take notes. So what methods do we come up with to overcome the fact that we can't read academic reading and just take in everything? We can't just skim it over. And what is skimming? Skimming is, it's called an F pattern, and you're going to have to talk about in your paper and your write-up on this, the F pattern. Think about an F. I'm going to put the screen on a whiteboard here, see if you can see that. Okay, here we are. This is an F. The F pattern of reading is that we read this way. Our eye goes from left to right. Then we drop down and ignore all this. Then we go a little bit, but not all the same distance as here. And then we just start descending and really just reading the odd word, okay? That's a skimming pattern of reading. And this eraser is not very good. That's the way people read. And I'm asking you not to read that way, but I'm asking you to take notes in this way. So annotation, documentation, practice deconstruction, seek clarity. So we're going to go through those 3 points. There's a big difference between reading actively and passively. What does passively means? You're not really into it. If you're leaning back and relaxing like this, you're probably passively reading. And we can even tell how engaged someone is even by their posture. If someone's sitting straight up and leaning forward, they're probably into it. If they're leaning backward, they're probably not into it that much. So active reading means engaging with the material. Which guy, this is a very old photo, which guy is more into it right now? You can obviously see the guy on the right. He's sitting straight, he's sitting in a stool, he's got source materials, it looks pretty deep. The other guy's just going over a newspaper. Nobody reads newspapers anymore, but anyways. So the first way is annotate while reading. And that's what you need to do when you do your major assignments. Right now, you're just taking notes on the words that are coming out of my mouth, plus the words you see on the screen. But annotation means you can do this with just pen, or you can do it with the computer. I think it works better with pen. The idea is that you have the document printed out, you're reading it, you write things, you highlight things, you write things in the margins. And why do we do this? Because when we write stuff down, it forces our brains to engage material. If we just sit there and sort of just let our eyes go over the material. Have you ever done this? Sometimes we go, well, what did I just read? I've read 20 pages here. Now you ask yourself, what did I learn? And you go, I don't know, something about chemistry. But if we don't push ourselves, taking notes pushes ourselves to digest material properly. So, and it stops us from skimming, which is the F pattern. So annotation is writing on the material itself. Documenting is writing often full sentences or point form. Things that are tied in with the text you're reading, comments on it, saying this is important, this is not important, what the thesis statement is. Because unless you have a perfect memory, it's going to be hard to go back and remember where everything was. But when you're reading it, you can take notes on it right then. And you're sort of assessing what the author is writing about. And you're highlighting and circling and doing arrows and pointing to the most important things. And you're writing full sentences too. Okay. So what you're trying to do, this does 2 things. It helps you retain information in your memory, but it also helps you later on when you're studying it. Deconstruction is something different. Deconstruction is, we think of construction is building a building, right? Deconstruction is breaking something down. So deconstruction, you're not trying to destroy anything, but you're breaking it down to the basic essentials. Like the basic essentials of a proper essay are probably introduction, hypothesis, supporting point 1, point 2, 3, 4, 5, and conclusion. Okay, that's the bare bones of an essay. Deconstruction is breaking it down to give yourself a structure, a framework, a skeleton of the entire paper. It will help you understand it better. Okay, so how do you do it? You take what you've been writing up, and then this is not this is the second step to what we were talking about before. You take what you were writing up and you create sort of a framework or a plan or a basic layout of the entire paper. It's almost like you're writing an outline of the paper. Because we need something when we are trying to memorize stuff or learn stuff, we need structure and order. We don't do very well when it's just random, okay? These are examples of deconstruction. If you can understand this, you're doing better than me, but this is some sort of map that the person has taken from this writer and gone over all their arguments. And this probably makes sense to them. This is a more traditional point form. The other thing is seeking clarity. Now let's think about the word seeking. Now I ask you right now, as I'm speaking right now, taking words that are coming out of my mouth, are you writing notes? Because as you might note, most of what I'm saying is not written on the PowerPoint. So I'm going to say it again, because I know that often we do things, we're so used to them, we do them without thinking. Are you taking notes? Have you been taking notes for the last 15 minutes? Are you just sort of casually listening? Well, you have to write up what I've said. I did not say I want you just to write up the PowerPoint. I said that's not enough, you're not going to pass. So I hope you're taking notes right now. The next point is seeking clarity. The word seek means we're looking for something, okay? Seeking is looking for something. You have intent. What's clarity? You want it to be clear. So seeking clarity in what you read is you're actively looking to understand what it's being said. What things do we seek clarity in? We seek things that are hard or that we care about. If you forget your phone in the classroom, you're going to come back, you're going to actively seek it. If you have a short, stubby pencil and you leave it in the class, and on the way out, you go, hey, where's my pencil? If you don't find it in a minute, you're just going to leave because you don't care, because it's just a little pencil. So if something's important to you, you seek it. And if clarity should be important to you. So what questions do you ask? Do I really understand it? What's causing me confusion? What's the author really trying to say? Okay. And again, I'm not just going to repeat these things and have you copy them down. Analytical skills, don't worry too much about this definition. Pretty much, if you're able to read actively, and if you're able to annotate, and if you're able to take notes, and then you're able to deconstruct and seek clarity, that's more what I'm focused on. So there are different strategies. Don't worry about this slide. There's mapping, which I sort of talked about earlier. So mapping is breaking something apart and then putting it back together. And we're talking about arguments here. And these are typical questions you might ask. How is it put together? Is this, what is the author trying to say? Is it argument or description? Okay. So this is an exercise, okay? When you give me notes, when you write up your notes on what I'm saying, I don't want you to write up what's on the screen here, okay? This is an example of, honestly, it's an example of horrible writing, but it's not horrible writing because it's grammatically incorrect. It's horrible writing because it's difficult to understand. So let's look at this. Social scientists have rightly held that people who are intermeshed in a network of overlapping, mutually supportive interpersonal relations and the concomitant commitment to common norms obtain a substantial measure of psychic support. This psychological fortification in turn limits the incident of self-destructive and other deviant behavior. So what's the message here? What's the conclusion? What's the point? Again, this is an example, okay? This is not teaching you anything about psychic support. It's an example, a writing example of breaking down difficult text. This is difficult text. It's very poorly written, to be honest, but let's go over it. So it says social scientists have rightly held that people who are intermeshed, what does this really mean? It's just saying social scientists accurately believe that people who are in a community or in a social network and who have good relationships and a set of common social norms are supported by that community. Okay, I've said exactly the same thing. This strength that they get from being in a community limits their self-destructive and deviant behavior. Okay, what does that say? So this stops people from doing self-destructive or antisocial things. Okay. This psychological fortification in turn limits the incident of self-destructive and other deviant behavior, okay? It follows that individuals with a high degree of involvement with the religious life of their community are less likely to be found on the lists of those who've taken the last fateful step to terminate their sojourn in this vale of tears, which is, wow, that's really hard to understand. It's not very obvious, but you got to break it down. So this strength that they get from being in a community limits, essentially, they feel more secure, and that these people who are involved in their communities and have good relationships and have some sort of religious life in the community are less likely to do what? Commit suicide. That's what it says. That's what terminating their sojourn in this vale of tears says. Okay. So basically, churchgoers or religious people are less suicidal. That's what it says. Why didn't it say it? Why did it say it in 3 paragraphs when it could have said it in 1 sentence? I don't know. But academic writing and a lot of and complex writing isn't always as clear as we want it to be. But this is an example of breaking down something difficult. I don't care about the material itself. It's the example of how to break something down. And you got to fight and wrestle and use your brain. And it's not obvious. And you need to do that as you read this stuff, as you do your assignments. You're not going to be able to just read them once. Okay, you're going to have to probably read it a few times. So other than that, in order to understand text, you need to make sure that you're understanding the words themselves, understand the analogies, and be able to rephrase what they're saying. If you can't rephrase it, you don't understand it, okay? Don't worry too much about this slide. So we've gone over this. Honestly, it's the taking notes, annotating, note-taking, deconstructing. That's what I care about. That's what I want you to write up. What you need to do is to write up with the title page in your own words, at least no more than 300 words, no less than 250 words. You need to write up your notes in proper English on this talk I just gave. So how are you going to start off? You're going to say, on such and such a date, I listened to a lecture online called Bricks of Academic Success by my professor, Paul Finlayson. He started off by talking about this, this, and this. Then he went into this. So you're going to have to fill this all in. And then say, he concluded by saying that the most important elements are that you get yourself in a good position to read, like you're focused, you're not lying on your back or listening to music or talking to friends or looking at your Instagram. And I didn't really say that before, but I'm saying it now. So it is important. He said, you need to set yourself up to be in a position to take information in. You need to read it properly. You need not skim. You need to annotate. You need to take notes. You need to deconstruct information where appropriate, and you need to have the right strategy for approaching difficult written material, okay? And that's where you could end this paper. But again, this is a strategy for all your assignments. So this is only 5%. The marks probably will not be good on it because probably most of you are ignoring what I'm saying, because students tend to. But this is what you need to do for assignment 1, 2, and 3. When you read, you're going to get assigned papers to read for all 3 of them. You need to actually read them. And I know many students do not read them. All they do is cut them and then try and put them into some software. Okay, so don't do that. And other than that, I'm going to stop now, post this later. And it's going to be posted. You can listen to it twice. Again, 300 words with the title page, not 300 words, does not include the title page. Do not just write up what you see in the PowerPoint. Some of what I said, you're writing up what I said, not what's in the PowerPoint. Some of what I said is in the PowerPoint, so it's not like you can't use it. But if you merely write up the PowerPoint, that just shows me that you listened to nothing that I said, and you think I'm just so stupid that I can't tell that all you're doing is writing. You're just basically taking a PowerPoint, writing it up. And that's pretty much worthless to me. So do not do that. And I guess I have posted chapter 2 and chapter 1 with audio overlay, and I will post chapter 3. And your quiz is coming up this Sunday. Your first assignment is due at the end of May. Please keep on top of My IT Lab. If you don't do member of My IT Lab, I hope you registered with your student number. That's what you need to do, because we have people with the same names. Other than that, I will talk to you later.